Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the AFC East Summit. I am your host today and the Bills correspondent, Brett McDurphy. Glad to be with you on this Tuesday evening to talk about the AFC East. And we've had some major changes in the AFC East based off of who is in first place for the division. I will give you guys a quick little rundown of who is in first right now. And I know that some people are going to be a little bit upset based off of who is in first now. Three of us are not too happy about that, but I want to give a little bit of a clap to Dolphin Keefe's Miami Dolphins and give them the props that they deserve. Give them the flowers early on because they're in first place right now, but we all know who's going to come in first place at the end of the season, which is going to be my Buffalo Bills. So let me give you the overall standings for the AFC East, what it looks like right now. We have Dolphins, the Dolphins at 2-0. You have the Jets 1-1, and the Bills are going to be coming for the Jets this week. The Bills 1-1 after the loss to the Jets in week 1. And then the New England Patriots starting off 0-2. So a little bit of a rough start for Chris's Super Bowl prediction that he had for the New England Patriots, who are starting 0-2. But we'll see how that goes and if they can turn things around. They have a good matchup this week against Anthony's New York Jets. So later on in the show, we'll have a face-off between Anthony and Chris. We'll also have some game balls that we're going to give out later in the show, as well as some other great things that we'll talk about. But first, let me introduce the panel. If you don't know these guys, you better get to know them because you're going to see them every Tuesday night from here on out throughout the whole entire season. Let me start with the first place man in Dolphin Keefe. He is the one that runs the Miami Dolphins side of the things for us, and he's somebody that has the best map behind him of the world, and it's the coolest backdrop that you could possibly have. Keefe, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing all right, Brett. Doing all right. It's a long season, but for right now, it's good to be 2-0.
Hey, that's great. You're the only team in the division that's 2-0, so it's a good start for the Miami Dolphins. They have a good matchup this week against the Broncos. Hopefully they can go 3-0, but, you know, three of us are hoping that they don't because we want to gain some momentum in the AFC East. But, yeah, always wishing you guys the best, except for when you play the Bills. So hope everybody stays healthy on the Miami Dolphins. Let me throw it over to the second place man in Anthony, who his team took a little bit of a hit this week with the Dallas Cowboys beating up on them a little bit this week. But I do like some of the things that the Jets were doing in that game. Just came down to a really good defense that they played against, and they just didn't have the answers to beat them. But they played pretty good, I got to say. And, you know, it's going to be a long season, and I like the way that the team rallied behind Zach Wilson. So, Anthony, give us a little bit of a intro for you and talk a little quickly about the matchup between the Dallas Cowboys.
First, I want to say I don't know who you two are rooting on, but I am rooting on the Dolphins to go ahead and kick the crap out of the Broncos after what Sean Payton said. So, yeah, I will be in the Dolphins' corner this week. I mean, it was a tough loss, obviously, but if I'm being entirely honest with you, I'm not sure how many teams in the NFL would have gone into Dallas the way that crowd was, the way that team is built, and pulled out a W. 30-10, 30-5, 30-0, like a loss is a loss. They all count the same at the end. I like the way that Zach played. Offensive line is giving him absolute problems. I mean, this is what happens. Like, we are early in the season. I get that. But this is what happens when, like, teams completely disregard preseason these days.
Yeah.
And this is now the second week in a row that we faced a top 10 or better defense, specifically defensive line. So, yeah, it was always going to be a bit of a challenge. They never even really attempted to get the run going except with Dalvin Cook, and you guys know how I feel about him. For this coming week, I am looking forward to this matchup against the Patriots, who seem to be struggling a little bit, but, like, Belichick is always a problem. Like, I'm not excited about this matchup. It's not like I'm feeling great about it. It's just like,
hey, you got to keep your hopes up, man, because listen, You got this face-off coming up later on in the show. That's going to be one of the ways that we're going to wrap it up. You got to give us why the Jets are going to win this game. So you got to keep that energy up. I don't want to see negative faces here, guys. We're going to keep the energy up throughout the show. Remember, you're representing your team. So let's keep that energy up throughout the whole entire season, because I said it on the Go Bills podcast it was actually last night. We were talking about the game against the Raiders, and I said after the first drive, I was very honest. I said that I thought that the Raiders were going to expose the Bills, and I was wrong. I had my moment. I was wrong. So
that's wild to me. The Raiders were like a bottom 10 team. You were always supposed to put like 1 trillion points on them at home.
Yeah, I mean it's just something that I thought was going to happen, because I didn't like the way that the Bills started off. They went down the field easily. But let me throw it over to Chris, the man that is in hot water right now, because his Super Bowl prediction is not working out right now. But, as the Red, White, and Bills said, Chris, is it going to be 16 games in a row for the Pats beating the Jets? And can they turn it around against the Jets, which is going to be a tough task, but we'll see if they can do it this week. Got to ask you, man, is that seat starting to get a little hot for you? I think you're going to have to turn on the AC in there.
Not 2 games and not 2 weeks into the season. There's no worry yet. Most teams, and I know it's easy to attest to. Most teams, you'll see them kind of pick it up about 3 or 4 games in the season. First 2 games are kind of like a feel now process, getting the team congealed together. Offense has been showing us a lot of issues, and like I said, even throughout the pre-show, offense was going to be our biggest struggle. So. Is it time to hit the panic button? Not yet. Maybe by week 10, if we're still under 500, then you hit the panic button. But week 2, week 3, we still got time.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, because it's so early in the season. You're still trying to figure things out with your offensive coordinator and Bill O'Brien. You're still trying to figure things out with the defense, what guys can get out there and make an impact. And you had some injuries too. I'm not trying to slack what the Patriots did whatsoever, but you had a lot of injuries in the cornerback room. Most of the Jones, if your last name is Jones, be worried, because you're probably going to get injured this year. Just saying. You had Jack Jones, you had Jonathan Jones, you've had Marcus Jones, all injured this week. So if your name's Jones, try and figure out a way to take some pills or something like that so you don't get injured. But let's throw it over to my team in the Buffalo Bills. Talk about that real quick. And I got to say, it's a big bounce back game for the Buffalo Bills in terms of what we saw from Josh Allen, taking what the defense gave him, which was a great thing to see. And you also saw that the defense came to play, stopping Josh Jacobs for -2 yards in this game. And it looked like a pretty different team from what we saw in week 1. So really good things that we saw from the Buffalo Bills. But let's get into it a little bit more, guys. And I'm going to give you each 3 minutes to talk about the previous game, give a review of what you saw from each team. And I'm going to start with the last place team in Chris, and what you saw from the Patriots in the week 2 matchup against the Miami Dolphins. So give me your perspective of what you saw out there. And you can also say if you think that there's ways that you can turn things around, how you can turn them around too. So give me your 3 minutes, bud.
First off, I don't appreciate being announced as the last place team. But
it's gonna be a long season, man. You're gonna have it a lot. So don't get me wrong. It's gonna happen a lot.
I know.
Get used
I'm
to
just
it.
joking with you, Brad. I appreciate it. But as for our 3-minute review of the game, I just, like I said, the offense really was the biggest concern. We were unable to capitalize when it came to turnovers. We were unable to capitalize. We didn't score our first touchdown until the top of the 4th quarter, which, if you start the game if you play a game like that, it's never going to work out for you. The defense played extremely well. I was proud of them. They kept Tyreek Hill to 40 receiving yards. Jalen Waddle, I think his biggest reception came on a 32-yard burst of speed, just wiggling through the secondary. So there's nothing you could do about that. That guy's a jet. He turned on the Jets. Him and Tyreek Hill just very like Keith mentioned, they have amazing skill players, and that is the issue that the Patriots do face because we don't have the explosiveness that we need at those skill positions like wide receiver. Our tight ends are great, but when you have Devontae Parker, who I'm glad is healthy because he made an impact right away. Led our offense with 57 receiving yards. When you have that guy leading the pack, then it's kind of like, well, it's are we going to be able to really do this? Do we need that person in our skill position? And then our offensive line struggle. I didn't think it was such a struggle week one, but it was really a big. You really could see the issues this week. The Dolphins kept getting into the backfield. They kept putting the pressure on Mac Jones. They didn't open up any running lanes. 50 yards on 15 carries from Ramondre Stevenson is very pedestrian. So there was just a lot of issues that we've seen, and it just gets concerning early. But like I said, it's only week two, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how they really do get it together, and if they can turn that around. Because the offense, Mac Jones didn't play a bad game. He played just about as good as Tua, but it's just like I said, when it came to like the running game, the Dolphins went 18. Raheem Mostert went 18 for 120 yards, and so when you can't stop the run. We have this great defensive line, but like you mentioned earlier, the injuries to our secondary and our cornerbacks cause us to play conservatively in the defense, which when you play for the pass, you open up the run, and that's what happened.
Exactly.
The Dolphins took advantage, and they just gashed us on the ground. So if the offense can answer, then it's a whole different game, but they weren't able to. So no, not time to hit the panic button, but just time to really get it going. Time to really take a look and get our offense really fixed up before it's too late.
So let me ask you this, Chris. What is one way that the Patriots can solve the issues and turn it around for the New England Patriots? Because as a fan, I know that there's some people like my grandfather who is a Patriots fan, which I gotta say is a little surprising. My dad married into a Patriots fan base, which wasn't too happy with, but
smart man.
He's a smart man. He has a 20-year run. It's coming to an end. It's going to be the Bills' time for a little bit, and we'll see how that's going to work out. But how do you turn it around? Because he wants to know, and he doesn't have an answer for how they can turn it around. What do you think they can do?
Definitely, I think the issue is going to be starting at the O-line, and we didn't really see those problems in week one when we played against the Eagles. The O-line looked like it stood up really well. Mac Jones was able to play in that pocket and really he played 350 yards, about 3 touchdowns. He looked great. But really the O-line needs to really open up lanes for our running backs, because we have two of one of the better running backs in the AFC East that need to really get going. If that running game can really get going, then that's going to be a problem, because Mac, I think if he can take the pressure off him, then he can really expose teams in the air. He's reading the plays well. He's reading the defense well. He's picking them apart. He's getting the ball out there quick. But I think that's just really our biggest issue right now. Just and the running game and our offensive line. So I think that's probably our answer to getting our struggles turned around. And also, we need to capitalize and get off to a quick start. There's no more waiting till the end of the second quarter to score a touchdown. We need to score a touchdown, as soon as we get that ball, open the drive, first possession, get some points on the board, and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Keith. I'm sorry, Chris. I'm looking at Keith because I'm going to go to him next. I want to go last place to first place right away. I'm going to do that to start the week off. But, because this was a really good matchup between both of you guys. And, it came down to, the Patriots could have won the game. It's just one drive that, they gave the ball, Mike Gesicki almost messed it up for the Dolphins. And he ended up, having a lateral. It just didn't go for that extra yard that you needed, which stunk. I was a little bit upset that they didn't convert that drive, because I wanted to see it come down to a closer game. That's how I want a game to end. Is I want it to be close to the goal line. If the Patriots can score, great. If not, then it comes down to that last couple seconds, and you have your popcorn ready. I was all excited, and then they didn't get the first down, and I'm like, okay, what a way to end the game. I hate seeing the kneel down to end the game. That's just not what I like to see. I want to see it come down to that last play. Something similar to what we saw in the Super Bowl, where you saw Steve McNair throw the ball and it came down to the 1 yard short, something like that. I want to see some type of thing happen like that. So it was sucked that it didn't happen this week. But let me turn it over to Keith and talk about the win. Talk about what you saw out there from the Dolphins and the adjustments that the Dolphins made to their offensive line and how they performed as well. Because I felt like, to me, what I saw was a different offensive line, and I felt like they did a better job of pass protecting it with Tua Tagovailoa. So tell me your thoughts on what you saw out there from the Dolphins.
Well, first and foremost, last week I predicted the Dolphins would win 24-20, I believe, and they ended up winning 24-17. So I'm going to say close enough on that one. And so the game went more or less the way I thought it was going to go, where it was just going to be a tough, tight matchup. The Bills, Bill Belichick is really good at making you play his game. And that's what he did. He made the Dolphins play his game. He boxed in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, which essentially negated the Dolphins' speed. He forced the Dolphins to run the ball against him. And the Dolphins did. To their credit, they committed to running the ball, and they did a good job of it. I'm not going to say they did a great job, but they did a pretty good job of running the ball against Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick was essentially daring the Dolphins to do so. There were opportunities for the Dolphins in this game to put it away long before that final Patriots drive, and they didn't take it. There was that 55-yard field goal, and I'm just going to say this about Jason Sanders. I understand that, 55-yard field goal, that's a hard one to make, but there have been two high leverage kicks this season for Jason Sanders, the extra point against the Chargers and the 55-yard field goal against the Patriots. And Jason Sanders has missed them both. That's going to be a concern going forward. I'm willing to give Jason Sanders a couple more weeks to see if he can break out of this funk of his, but this has been going on for 2 seasons now, and it's time for him to either put up or shut up. There are free agent kickers out there like Robbie Gould, who kicked for the 49ers last year, who would be available to the Dolphins should they decide to move on. And if Jason Sanders keeps on kicking the way he has been, it might be time for the Dolphins to look into doing so. As far as the Patriots go, they played a tough game. They played a good game defensively. They played a good game, even offensively. They were moving the ball down the field prior to both of their turnovers. It wasn't as though the Dolphins completely shut them down. The fumble by Mario Douglas, it was just a great hustle play by Bradley Chubb. That no shame against Mario Douglas. And the interception on Mac Jones, that was the ball that he just shouldn't have thrown, period. But either way, on both those drives, the Patriots are moving the ball. So this was kind of a game where could have gone, one or two plays goes differently. Patriots come out on top. So as far as the Patriots being 0-2, not all 0-2 records were created equally, right? They are much better than their 0-2 record would indicate. They need, I think they do have a little bit of, they need more speed on offense. I don't think they're a very fast team. They're not a very quick team. They're going to be the kind of team that's going to have to matriculate the ball down the field, as Hank Stram would say. They're not going to be a big play offense. And at a certain point, you need a guy that's going to do that for you. The Dolphins have a bunch of those guys. So, it was a hard game. It was a tough game, and it was a fun game. At the end of the day, Patriots did really well to hang in with the Dolphins the way they did. Really impressed with the grit that they played with.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I got to say this, though, Chris, even though I make fun of you and everything for the way that you start off, that's just how we do it. We're joking around, having fun and everything, man. But I got to say, though, the way that the Patriots have played in the last 2 games against not only the team that was in the Super Bowl last year, but the Dolphins, who are an excellent team as well, and to stay in the game all the way until the end, that just shows me that the Patriots are legit. They're going to be able to stay in a lot of games, and they're going to come up with some wins. It's just some drives that they need to correct. Like you said, they need to start off faster in the first quarter. If they do that, then they're going to come away with a lot more wins, and it's going to happen pretty soon. Don't get me wrong. It's going to happen in the next couple of weeks.
Also, Brett, the schedule makers didn't do the Patriots any favors.
Oh, no, not at all.
Having them face the Eagles week 1, Dolphins week 2, and even the Jets to an extent in week 3. Like, it's kind of a rough way to start your season. Even if their first 2 games were at home, that's just not a fun way to start your season.
No. But the schedule makers also helped out the Patriots by giving them 2 games in a row that they're going to play at home. So they didn't have to travel for either game as well. So that's a good start to the year as well. But let me throw it over to Anthony and talk about his second place team in the Jets and how they're going to fall down to 3rd place after a win by the Patriots this week. I'm just kidding, Anthony. But let's talk about the Jets and what we saw overall from them in this matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. To break it down a little bit and tell me what you saw from the Jets, what you actually liked that you saw from the Jets, and areas that you think that the Jets have improved on from week 1.
Okay. There are literally no ways in which they can improve on week 1. They were bad. But a lot of that, I think, came to the fact that generally speaking, they were outmatched. Their offensive line against the Dallas Cowboys defensive line. I think the final total was like the Dallas Cowboys ran 83 plays and the New York Jets ran 44. There's simply no way that you can have your defense out there for, I think it was 42 minutes of the 60 minutes the New York Jets defense was on the field. Everything that the Jets did to Josh Allen in week 1, which is make him take the boring stuff until he just suffocates himself. That doesn't work against Dak. Dak is more than happy to throw underneath to CeeDee Lamb. The Dallas Cowboys did everything they could possibly do. They ran CeeDee on mesh concepts. They did the underneath mesh where like he starts off in the slot, they run underneath it, and they just throw it to him in the flat. They hit Tyreek or CeeDee Lamb in every way they possibly could, whether it was for a short completion or a deep completion. Sauce did fine, but our slot corner, our number 1 slot corner, Michael Carter was injured, so they threw Brandon Eccles in there. Brandon Eccles immediately got a pass interference, and then he got burned multiple times. And then, like I said, Dallas was more than happy to take the short stuff. Dak Prescott just beat us to death by throwing 5-8-yard dinks just right down the field, 15-yard plays, because the ultimate goal of the game was not to beat the Jets in big plays. It was to force the defense to be on the field and make the offense go the length of the field against them. And right now, the way that this offense is constructed, there's simply no way that Zach Wilson can take a team 80 yards for a touchdown. The only touchdown we got was Garrett Wilson on that gorgeous in-breaking route where he caught it in stride and just took it the distance because Dallas was just in man. They were in single high, and you make one man miss in single high and you're gone, especially with 4.3 speed. Now, what did we do well? I think finally, until he melted down in the fourth quarter, the offensive coordinator realized that Zach Wilson plays his best ball throwing deep and throwing outside the numbers. I don't know if you remember, it was the bucket shot that he threw to Alan Lazard that obviously Alan Lazard couldn't possibly catch and get both feet down. And it was the shot over the middle to Garrett Wilson that was like 15 yards down the field. Zach Wilson has an arm, and he's really good at letting it rip. But the problem is when you try to turn him into a game manager instead of live with the consequences of he's going to miss some of those long shots, you're going to struggle. Like he's not going to hit the 5-yard routes consistently to CJ Uzomah. He's not going to get the seam shots all the time to Tyler Conklin. What else did we do poorly? We blocked terribly, horribly. What are the biggest issues with this team? Generally speaking, the biggest issue that I would point out is the fact that they're obsessed with veteran leadership, and we continue to play bad older players. Dwayne Brown may be one of them. Laken Tomlinson may be one of them. CJ Uzomah is definitely one of them. Dalvin Cook, cut him.
You guys wanted to pay him. I mean, I'm just going to say that right now. You guys wanted to pay him. You paid him a little too much, in my opinion. I'm not going to.
His contract is roster bonuses. If they cut him tomorrow, they would save everything from him not being on the roster. It's all roster bonuses from here on out. So, like, I don't understand the point of continuing to put him on the roster when you know you have Izzy Abanikanda. They have another guy on their practice squad named Xavier Valade. I don't know how much you guys scouted, but Xavier Valade was running back out of Arizona State last year. Absolute playmaker. Yep. Now, he's not going to be an every down back for you, but God, that dude can fly. He is exactly what you're looking for as a change of pace back.
And you guys cut Bam Knight too. That's another good running back that you had on the roster. He wasn't great, but he was a good running back. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he would be a good complimentary number 2, number 3 running back for a team. You know, there's some running backs that we're going to talk about in a little bit that I know Chris wanted to talk about later on. That, you know, we got some openings that are going to be that just came about, and one of them is going to be the Cleveland Browns with the injury to Nick Chubb. So that's a position where Bam Knight could go, but you got to find an answer at the running back position with Breece Hall not having a good game. I'm going to say that right now. He had a good game in week 1.
He had 4 carries.
He had 4 carries. But how many yards? How many yards? That's on the offensive coordinator.
The first carry was blown up because CJ Uzomah let the defensive end through, and it was blown up for -5. He finished the game with positive yards. Josh Jacobs, last year's rushing leader, -2 on 9 carries. Like, let's not pretend like running backs can't like have a bad carry when they only.
Oh no. I'm not saying that whatsoever. No. What I'm saying is the offensive coordinator could have given him better opportunities to get more carries, and that's on Nathaniel Hackett, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I felt like there could have been more opportunities where the Jets could have ran the ball, different design plays, stuff like that. I didn't see a lot of design plays that I liked from them. I feel like they could have done a better job of not only going outside with the running backs and pull blocking. That's one thing that I would have liked to have seen is some pull blocks where you see guys like Vera Tucker or even Mekhi Becton go out and pull block on those plays. Because you got to find ways to stop this defense of the Dallas Cowboys, and I didn't feel like they did a good enough job of stopping that defense because you have Micah Parsons, who's an excellent pass rusher. But you got to be able to stop the pass rush by running those outside runs and doing stuff like that and pulling and doing things that are going to throw them off because you have to worry about that run game, and they didn't do that.
It's not even just that. When you take a look at the way that the league uses Tyreek Hill, the league uses Jefferson, the league uses even CeeDee Lamb that we saw the other night. Every single play, Garrett Wilson just lined up outside. No motion, no screens, no jets, no orbits, nothing, absolutely nothing. It's just get in your formation, snap the ball, see what happens. There's no creativity. It's awful.
I agree with you there.
Micah Parsons is not just an excellent edge rusher. Micah Parsons is the best defensive player in the game right now.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. He's absolutely unbelievable.
Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna give him all the flowers, like you just said, Keith. He's an excellent player in this league. Does an amazing thing. He's gonna be defensive player of the year. Don't get me wrong.
No, I mean, you don't get it.
At this pace, Micah Parsons is on pace for defensive player of the year. Mm-hmm. And the game he played against the Jets was game wrecking.
It was. I mean, they did everything with him, and the Jets did nothing to compensate. That was the other issue that I had. It almost felt like the Jets coaches didn't even watch what was done to Dallas.
Yeah,
by Micah Parsons when they walked Micah Parsons up on the center and he mugged nickel, or he mugged over the center and just walked it, or just beat him in a phone booth for a sack. Like He did that same thing to freaking John Michael Schmitz the week before. Like, it's not like they're doing anything any differently. The very first sack on Zach Wilson, Micah Parsons is lined up basically as like a stand-up 7-tech. As soon as the ball snapped, he wraps all the way around. For I don't know why, Elijah Vera Tucker wanders over to help out Mekhi Becton on a block that he didn't need help on, leaving a wide open gap at right guard. Micah Parsons walks through and sacks Zach Wilson. Like, it just felt like the team was unprepared.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. But let me move on talking about the Jets, and we'll start talking about the Bills a little bit. I want to give them a little bit of a shout out because I really liked what I saw overall from the Buffalo Bills completely around the board. Different Josh Allen that you saw out there on the field, and a player that looked more poised this week compared to going up against Anthony's New York Jets. He started taking what the defense gave him, which is something that I know a lot of Bills fans have been talking about. Ended up finishing the game 31 of 37, 273 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So really good numbers from him. It was more of the dink and dunk style of defense, and I really like that from the Bills. They did a good job of just taking what was there. You saw guys like Dalton Kincaid. You saw Gabe Davis. Even Stephon Diggs, who wasn't the leading receiver for the Bills. Everybody got involved, and they did their jobs. And that's one thing I really liked from the Buffalo Bills this week. Compared to last week, and I know that Anthony would say the same thing, Bills' offensive line did some good things, but there were some times where they struggled quite a bit against Quinnen Williams and even John Franklin Myers and Bryce Huff. They did a better job this week of stopping Max Crosby, and that came down to Spencer Brown stopping Max Crosby across the whole entire board, which was a big change, and I was surprised by that completely. So I really liked that we saw a different offensive line that came in, and it wasn't just the starting offensive line, but you also had a guy in Ryan Bates who came into the game and made an impact. Ryan Bates is a guy that, if you remember last year, he was the starting right guard for the Buffalo Bills, and he didn't have the best year. He signed a 4-year extension a couple years ago. Didn't have a good year, and he also came back and kept his mouth shut, worked through the offseason, lost his right guard position to Osiris Torrance, who is going to look like – he looks like a monster out there. I'm not going to lie to you guys. He's a really good right guard out there for the Bills, and he's only going to get better as the year goes on. And he reminds me a lot of Elijah Vera Tucker, to be honest with you. A guard that's just massive, uses his strength, does everything that you want him to do in a right guard. So really good job from the offensive line. And then leading the way at receiver, Gabe Davis, really good job spreading the ball around completely. 9 different receivers that you saw out there, including Jake's favorite in Reggie Gilliam getting a catch, who's the fullback for the Buffalo Bills. Running game, again, you saw James Cook making an impact out there on the field, 123 yards, doing his thing, looking a lot better than his brother did in the game against the game for the Dallas Cowboys. So did a much better job. And I guarantee you probably want James Cook after last week's performance by Dalvin Cook. So just throwing a little shade at Anthony, trying to see if I can get him to smile a little bit, but nothing happening right now. But we'll see how the show goes on later on. We'll see if I can get him to crack a little bit. We'll see how it goes. As far as the defense, there's that smile. I was looking for it. It's coming out now. As far as the defense for the Buffalo Bills, you saw the defense didn't get to Jimmy Garoppolo, which I was a little bit disappointed, but you also saw some good things where they're batting balls down. They were making an impact and pressuring Jimmy. Just didn't get home to him, and that's one thing I didn't necessarily love. But you saw guys like Ed Oliver. You saw Daquan Jones. You saw Greg Russo make an impact out there. Even Leonard Floyd, before he got injured, made an impact. And he limited the rushing leader for the last year to -2 yards. And this is what Red, White, and Bill said. Talk about it more, because they held the rushing king to -2 yards. That's one thing I really loved about that. And they did such a good job of going from giving up the big plays against Breece Hall to stopping the run and then making it one-dimensional for the Bills to be able to use their passing game and their strength of their passing game to stop the Raiders. And that's one thing I really loved about this game. And then the backfield with guys like Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard making an impact, as well as the secondary of the Buffalo Bills. It all just came together to become a team win. So I was thrilled with the win, and it was a big change of pace for me because I know that Keith over the last 2 weeks has been through a lot with the Miami Dolphins, pretty much giving them a heart attack for the last 2 weeks. Felt that way in week 1 for the Buffalo Bills with that doink kick that ended up going through the upright that gave me a heart attack. But now it's a new week. Bills got a good win, 4-touchdown lead, which I predicted. Didn't predict the score right, but we got it to a 4-touchdown lead, which is exactly what I wanted to see.
But Brett, this was a get-right game for the Bills. After that game against the Jets, a game against the Vegas Raiders, it cures what ails you, right? You guys, all you Bills fans over at Nickel City Mafia, you guys, the sky was falling last week. We're terrible. The offensive line, Spencer Brown. Oh my God, guys!
Hey, that wasn't me. That was me. That was somebody else that's not on the show right now. I'm not going to name names, but it starts with an S and ends in an N. I don't know who that guy might be, but somebody was saying something about Spencer Brown, and I made a bet with him. I said, "Hey, listen, $5. I promise you right now, you can't talk crap about Spencer Brown next week."
Yeah.
What happens?
Well, look, you guys were all really upset after that game, and I understand. I understand why, but the thing is that the Bills are not as bad as they played against the Jets. They're a much better team than that, and they proved it against the Raiders. They went out against the Raiders and they outclassed them in every facet of the game. So, we're only 2 weeks in. It's not time to overreact. Chris isn't overreacting at the Patriots being 0-2. I'm not overreacting at the Dolphins being 2-0. We got to see how this thing plays out. And the Bills showed that they're still a force to be reckoned with in the AFC this week.
I completely agree with you there, Keith. You said it 100% best. And we'll see as the season goes on how the Bills do and how all the teams do because, like I said, it's the AFC East Summit. We're all trying to climb up that hill, get to the top of the mountain, and we'll see how it works at the end of the season. But let's move on to our second segment that we're going to talk about, which is going to be the game balls for each team. You can give 2 game balls away to the offense, 2 game balls away to the defense. And if you have a special teams player that you want to give 1 game ball away to, you can give it away to that or that special teams player as well. But let me start with Chris because I want to know who you are going to give a game ball away to for, even though you guys lost, but who you gave a game ball away to on offense, defense, and then special teams. So give me your takes on who you're going to give game balls away to.
Offense is kind of funny for me. I don't know if I'd give it to anyone on offense, but I guess I'd have to give it to Mac Jones, the leader of the offense. Even though he was off to a slow start, he was able to really pick it up toward the end, and he pushed the ball down the field. He showed a lot of poise in the fourth quarter, scoring the most points, that they did the entire game because they didn't score. They scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth, and they were almost able to lead it back, which they would make it exciting, right? They would make it exciting in the fourth. It's never like they're just blown out or it's just, they're just out of it completely. But man, these guys are always fighting back. It always comes down to one big play. Whether it was the Demario Douglas toe tap or the Gesicki lateral, that was amazing. That was a beautiful play to watch. I thought we had it. It looked like we did, but so I'm going to give it to Mac Jones for the offense. For the defense, it looked like we did. Keith, don't shake your head. He was right.
No, you didn't have it. You did not have it.
We had it.
It was short. I'm not going to lie.
That referee was from Miami. He was from Miami.
I'm going to tell you this though. Okay, I have a rules expert that was going to come on. Actually, I was going to have him on the show that I did last night on the Overreaction Monday, and I was going to have him talk about the play against the Miami Dolphins, and he said right away, he texted me and said that was short. It's short. It's going to be a turnover on downs. That's what happened. So we do have a rules expert that can tell you about, whether it was short or not. So we'll bring him on sometime and talk about this. And he is a Dolphins fan, but he's right though on the call. He showed me the footage and everything. It is right.
Listen, you said as soon as you say he was a Dolphins fan, I heard everything I needed to hear. But as for my defensive game ball, I definitely have to give it to Christian Gonzalez. 2 games in, 2 tough matchups. The first one with A.J. Brown and now with Tyreek Hill. He's looking like the real deal. He ended the game again with the most tackles on the defense, 6 tackles and an interception. This kid is great. He came to play. And let's not forget, Tyreek Hill exploded for about 200 yards against who did they play in the first week?
Chargers.
The Chargers, the Chargers in the first week exploded for 200 yards. This game he was held to 40. So heck of a game from the young man, and so I'm definitely gonna give him the defensive game ball. Like I said, he's looking like the real deal. What a pick from the scouting staff in New England, but this kid right here is turning heads, and I think the NFL can see he's coming to play. So he's got a tough matchup against Garrett Wilson this week. So we'll see how it goes. But until he does something wrong and gets toasted, then he's gonna get the game ball every week from me.
Yeah. Any game balls for the special teams?
Not special teams. They didn't do anything considerably amazing, but I'd probably have to give it to Matthew Slater because that guy's like 37 years old. He's still out there running. I think he had 1 penalty where they pushed him out of bounds. He came back with the first person inbounds to touch the ball. So besides that, I mean, for 37 years old in the NFL still running, I think that's an amazing feat. It deserves the game ball in itself. So Matthew Slater gets the special teams game ball.
Okay, I like that from Chris's Patriots, even though they did lose this game. I like what you're saying there. Let me throw it over to Anthony. Give your game balls for the Jets. And I mean, maybe I shouldn't say game balls, but give some props to what the Jets did out there. Tell me who you think deserves some consideration for a game ball, possibly, because I know you're not happy with how they performed whatsoever.
There's no consideration though. I mean, it's Garrett Wilson. Man touched the ball 2 times, one for like 87 yards and a touchdown. Like, I don't know if there's anything else that he could have possibly done. Garrett Wilson game ball for sure on offense. Defense, I was just looking at the stats again. It'd be hard to say anybody but like Quinnen, though. I mean, Sauce was so close to that pick six.
Yeah.
That pick six would have flipped the game. But I have to give it to Quinnen. Couple of pressures, a couple of tackles for loss. Played well. Did what he could. What are you going to do? Game ball for special teams, Thomas Morstead. Come on, buddy. 48.2 yard average. If we're going to do anything, it's punt.
Hey, you guys better get good at that, Anthony.
I'm saying.
You're getting pretty good at it. Hey, listen.
We're getting practice.
Hey, he doesn't have to worry about you don't have to worry about your kicker. He's not going to be involved very much this year. You might want to just have Thomas Morstead kick your kicks for you. You can just save on that position, but just kidding all the way around. But let me throw it over to Keith, and then I'll go with the Bills last and talk about your game balls for the Dolphins. And, is there anybody that's going to be a surprise that's going to get a game ball this week for the Dolphins?
This week, I'd like to give a game ball to Raheem Mostert of the Dolphins. He had a really nice game running the ball. Had the basically game clinching touchdown run at the end of the game there. And also on offense, I'd like to give a game ball almost as an apology to Connor Williams because the botch snap against the Chargers, not his fault. And the botch snap against the Bills where the Dolphins almost turned it over in the fourth quarter there, not his fault as well. They were both Tua's fault. So Tua needs to clean that up. So that's more of an apology to Connor Williams. Defensively, Andrew Van Ginkel had a hell of a game, was putting pressure on Mac Jones the entire game. And he was taking over for Jalen Phillips playing the edge. Jalen Phillips got hurt in practice this week, hurt his back. So Andrew Van Ginkel stepped in, did a really nice job for the Dolphins and earned himself a lot more playing time. He had been playing middle linebacker throughout camp, and he played middle linebacker in game 1 against the Chargers. But I think he's better suited to edge. He's much more of an impact player playing off the edge. So I see him being a rotational pass rusher going forward. Special teams, nobody deserves a game ball. They were terrible. Jason Sanders, no. Jake Bailey, he was okay. They had a blocked kick at one point. Dolphins need to clean up their special teams. It's the forgotten unit on all teams, but it can lose you games, and it damn near lost the Dolphins game on Sunday.
Hey, I agree with you there. I really, really liked what I saw from the Dolphins and with Andrew Van Ginkel. And I got to tell you this, Keith. I don't know if you saw it on Good Morning Football, but Peter Schrager wore the Van Ginkel jersey. So I don't know if you saw that. I'll try and find a photo of it, but hey, that was pretty cool to see that a jersey that you don't normally see out there for teams. It's good to see that it was another cool jersey, and the 43 looked good on Peter Schrager. I'm not going to lie.
He should have put on the blonde wig then too.
Oh yeah, I agree. I know he has some pretty good hair. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
that's some pretty good flowing hair. But let me give you my game balls for the Buffalo Bills, and I got to throw up some game balls. Try and get it on the screen pretty good. I got 4 game balls that I'm going to give away. Starting with the Bills on offense, I'm going to give 2 game balls away to the offense, and it's going to go down to, number 1, a big-time difference of performances from Josh Allen. He deserves a game ball based off of what he did just to silence out all the haters all week and the national media and everybody that has thrown Josh out there and said, listen, he's not a good quarterback. Mac Jones is better. I heard that. I don't know if you saw that clip, though, Chris. But there's a clip that said that in 10 years that Mac Jones is going to be better than Josh Allen. And those things that you're going to hear, especially as a quarterback, Josh Allen said it. There's some ups, there's some downs. It's a mountain that you're going through being a quarterback in the NFL. You're going to have your good days, you're going to have your bad days. And to silence out the worst day that he's probably had in his career as a quarterback and then come back and play as well as he did, that shows me the resilience of the Buffalo Bills. And it shows me that Josh Allen still has it and he understands how to perform. So game ball goes out to him. Second game ball I'm going to give away to a man that has well deserved it throughout the 2 years that he's been in the NFL, and I'm going to give it out to James Cook. He looked amazing out there on the field. Big difference from week 1, which is that he was seeing the holes that he needed to hit, and there was one play where he stutter-stepped a little bit, juked out a defender, and was able to get downfield, which is a play that I absolutely loved from James Cook. And he pretty much cemented the fact that he's going to be the number 1 running back for the Buffalo Bills as the season goes on. As far as the defense, I'm going to give it to a guy that most people on the set probably don't like because he is a veteran for the Buffalo Bills and somebody that makes an impact and kind of plays with some type of edge on his shoulders, which is Matt Milano, and he's a player that I absolutely love. And I know Tua's team probably doesn't like him as much. I know the Jets probably don't like him as much either, but I got to give a shout out to Matt Milano, who absolutely mossed a defender, and that deserves to be the number 1 on SportsCenter's top 10. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Incredible play, and I know Randy Moss was pretty happy about that play. So for the defense, I got to give it to Matt Milano. As far as special teams, I'm going to give it to the man that barely even touched the ball. I'm just kidding. I'm not giving it to Sam Martin. I got to give it to Tyler Bass, who looked incredible. I know that Keith probably wishes that he was the kicker for the Miami Dolphins, but he's looked incredible. And I got to say this too. I'm going to go on a little bit of a ramble because this is something that I know a lot of people don't even know about. But Tyler Bass, when he came into the league, he was hated pretty much from all of Bills Mafia. I don't know if you guys knew that. And he's pretty much turned it around. And he's been pretty silent throughout the whole entire career that he's had with the Bills. And he's made a big impact and came back. And Bills Mafia is happy to have him because we had a good kicker before him in Stephen Hoshka. And the Bills ended up releasing him, which is something that the Bills Mafia didn't love. I'm not going to lie. But it was time to move on. And he's been a great kicker for us. And he's still doing his thing. Absolutely love him. So game ball goes out to him as well. But let's move on talking about our third segment, which is going to be grading the offense, defense, and special teams units for each team. I'm going to start with Anthony, and I want a quick little grade. Give it under a minute of a grade for the offense, defense, and special teams for your team this week.
Offense D+, defense B-, special teams C.
Okay. And coaching, do you have a grade for the coaching?
D-.
Okay. All right. Keith, give me a grade for your team and then go along with the coaching. So offense, defense, special teams, coaching.
Offense, B-. They had a lot of plays where they shot themselves in the foot, but they moved the ball pretty well against the Patriots. Defensively, they had a bit of a bounce back, so I'll give them a B- as well. The Patriots still moved the ball a little too much, a little more than I would have liked for them to. Dolphins got bailed out by 2 fairly lucky turnovers, honestly. And special teams F. They kicked the field goal in the game and they kicked extra points and everything, but when the kicks that matter the most happened, the special teams crumbled, just like in week 1 against the Chargers. So overall, I'm giving the Dolphins another C. They need to get better in every facet of the game. They may be 2-0, but there's plenty of room for improvement.
What's your grade for the coaching staff?
They coached a good game. I'll give them a B.
Okay. I like that. So overall grade C. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Overall grade C.
Okay. Chris, give me your grade for the Patriots.
I give the offense a C-. The offense really, like I said, they didn't show that explosiveness. They didn't get on the board really into the fourth quarter. The running game was pedestrian. The passing game was it was about the same as the Dolphins, but it was still kind of pedestrian. But we need to do a lot better on the offense, so I'm gonna give them a C- for sure. As for the defense, I'll probably give the defense a B. We were able to shut down the strongest feature of the strongest weapons of the Miami offense, which is their passing game and Tyreek Hill and then Jalen Waddle. So they didn't go crazy. We were able to shut that down, but we did gash ourselves in the running department. So they ran all over us for 120 yards. So we could have been a lot better. So I give them a B. They did a lot of things well, but there were things that they could have done better, And as for the special teams, I'm gonna give the special teams an A. I forgot to mention, I'll probably give him the game ball too. He deserves it. But that block field goal that we got, I don't know how I forgot that, but that was a beautiful play that they made where he looked like he came from the sideline off that edge and just shot in there like a rocket. It looked like he played off of Madden, but
that's a new play that Belichick dreamed up, and you know what? I mean,
beautiful. I didn't even see him.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Did not even see him until they snapped the ball and he came out blasted by everybody and blocked that play. So
Dolphins didn't see him coming at all.
Yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful play. So I give the special teams an A+ because they did their thing, when it mattered the most. So it kept us in the game and created some extra opportunities for us that kept us in that game a little bit longer than we deserved to be in. So overall, I don't know what you'd grade. I guess like a B+. I guess I give us a B+ at the end of the day.
Okay. And the coaching staff, what are you giving Belichick and his son, as well as Bill O'Brien?
I'm gonna give I'm gonna give Bill O'Brien. I'll give him the same thing as I did offense. A C- because, like I said, offense is just not living up to their potential that they can. Bill Belichick and his son, I give them A's because the defense played well, special teams played well, so they did their thing. We need Bob to go step it up. B.O.B. Bill O'Brien. So we need him to step it up.
Hey, I agree with you there. But I'm going to go quickly with mine. Offense of the Bills, I'm going to give them an A grade. Really liked what I saw overall in the way that they mixed everything up on offense. Defense, I'm going to give them I'm going to say a B+, because I wish that they would have gotten a couple of sacks in this game, which is one area that I think kind of hurt for the Bills. Special teams, I'm going to give them a A+. I think it was a big improvement from what we saw in week 1. So we didn't see any touchdowns given up by the special teams unit, which is a lot better this week than last week. No big runs, nothing like that we saw. Really good job by Tyler Bass converting every single opportunities that he had to make in extra points as well as the field goal, and then one kick by Sam Martin in this game. So I'm going to give him a plus. And then the coaching staff, I'm going to give him an A too. So overall grade for the Buffalo Bills, I'm going to give them an A just because I really liked what they did in this game. Well, let's move on talking about the week 2 matchups. Talk about the week 3 matchups that we have this week. And boy, do we have some good matchups where we have Chiefs Dolphins at home against the Broncos. You have a face-off that we're going to have between the Jets and the Patriots this week. So you're going to get another face-off this week because, hey, we got to do it 2 weeks in a row. So you're going to have another face-off this week. And then we also have the Bills traveling to DC to take on the Commanders. So 3 really good games that we're going to see this week. But let me start it off with Keith, and then I'll go second, and then I'll convert this and take Keith and I out, and you'll do a 2-minute face-off for previewing the game. But let me get a preview from Keith on his matchup against the Denver Broncos. So give me a 3-minute segment as a preview for the game against the Denver Broncos.
All right. Well, on paper, this is the game the Dolphins should win, right? They're the better team. They're the better coach team. They have Tua. They have Tyreek. All this stuff's been talked about ad nauseum, and they're playing at home for the first time this season as well. They're having their home debut this year. So here's the thing, though. The Dolphins need to be careful this week. They run the risk of this being a trap game for them. They're coming back home. They should beat the Broncos. They have the Bills next week in week 4. They need to buckle down and focus on this Broncos game right now and focus on nothing else other than that, because this Broncos team is talented enough to pull off the upset in Miami. Russell Wilson is not as bad as people say he is. He's not the player he was in Seattle, but he still has something left. Javonte Williams, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. This team has some skill players that can hurt the Dolphins. Patrick Surtain on defense. This is a good team. This is a talented team. And if you don't pay close attention to them, they can sneak a win past you. So the Dolphins just need to be careful, and they need to focus and really, really take this game seriously. Don't look ahead to the Bills, because that game's going to be huge. That game's going to be massive for both of us, Brett. But this is the week where you go 3-0, and this is kind of a get-right game for the Dolphins as well, because they haven't played their best football this season. On either side of the ball, they haven't played their best football yet. So it'd be nice to see them play better football on both sides of the ball, play a more complete football game going into Buffalo. As far as final score predictions, I think the Dolphins are going to win in kind of a shootout. No score prediction?
No, not yet. Don't give your score prediction yet.
All right.
So don't give your score prediction yet. That's going to be at the end. So I don't want to spoil that because I have to have Anthony and Chris go. But I don't want you to give your score predictions yet. We'll do it after Anthony and Chris go. So we'll keep that silent for now. But you gave a little bit of an idea of where you're going with this game. So I like it, though, Keith.
Okay.
So I don't want to spoil that yet. But we'll go right after this. I'll do my segment, and then we'll give Chris and Anthony a shot. They can't go against each other. Just remember, they're going to give one side why their team is going to win. The other person's going to give their side of why their team's going to win. And then we'll all come back together and we'll talk about score predictions after that. So don't want to spoil anything, but I'm going to talk about the Bills. And this game is going to be a game that I know that you guys are going to laugh when I even say it. It is a homecoming for the Bills with traveling all the way down to the DC to take on the Commanders. This is a game where you have 2 head coaches that are very familiar with each other in Ron Rivera and Sean McDermott, who used to be the defensive coordinator with the Carolina Panthers when Ron Rivera was there. There's a ton of players that are going to be familiar with each other as well. There's some players that played for the Buffalo Bills, some players that actually ended up almost going to the Buffalo Bills from the Ron Rivera School of the Carolina Panthers, that I like to call it. And one of the players, J.D. McKissick, who ended up signing a contract as a free agent last year with the Buffalo Bills, ended up coming back to the Washington Commanders and pretty much dissed the Buffalo Bills, said, nah, I don't want to go there, and ended up staying with the Commanders. So this is a game where you're going to see a lot of familiarity. The offense of the Commanders they have a pretty good trio that they have there with Sam Howell. You have Brian Robinson Jr., and then you have Terry McLaurin. And then also they have two other good wide receivers on their team, and Curtis Samuel, as well as Jahan Dotson. So there's a good room there for the wide receivers. And then you have the tight end room where there's another familiar guy from the Buffalo Bills, a guy that was drafted by Buffalo, actually, in Logan Thomas. Actually, he wasn't drafted by Buffalo. He was drafted by Arizona, came to Buffalo, and he was a quarterback back in the day, converted into a tight end. So Logan Thomas coming back, playing against his former team. And then on defense for the Commanders, the defense of the Commanders is just like the Buffalo Bills. I mean, all the way around, you see similarities. It's a ton of first-round picks on the defensive line for the Commanders, same way as the Buffalo Bills. And then you have some pretty good linebackers as well, and then a secondary that needs to improve a little bit more for the Commanders. It's not the same secondary that you see with Sean McDermott's team, but overall, I really like the roster of the Commanders, and this is going to be a game that's going to be one that the Bills should win. But if you look at last week, what the Commanders did, they fell behind actually against the Denver Broncos, and they're down 21-3, and then they roared back to a 32-3 run to extend from the late second quarter that they had. So they took the 35-24 lead and pretty much won the game, but it came down to a Hail Mary, and they probably could have lost that game as well. And it was a tough game, but I think that this is a game that the Bills are going to squeak away with, and they should squeak away with. And then just like Keith is saying, for the Dolphins, you got to, hit the stride this week. Don't take this team for granted, and then focus on next week against the showdown that we're going to have, another face-off between Keith and I, or Keith and the next correspondent that's going to represent the Buffalo Bills next week. So we'll see how that goes, but we'll have a little bit of a debate next week on that. So let me take Keith and I out, and before I do that, just want to remind you guys that you're going to do a face-off, 2 minutes each, going against each other. No fighting, guys. Just remember that. We're not going to fight. No arguing whatsoever. And no talking for the other person. I will mute the other person so they cannot talk during the other person's segment. But we have a showdown, and it's going to be Chris starting it off, and then Anthony going second. And Anthony, in your time, you can come back at Chris, but you can't jump him during his 2 minutes, okay? I'm just saying. I know. I'm just saying. Just being polite, not attacking you.
Chomping at the bits. He's chomping at the bits right now.
Chomping at the bits. So I'm just chomping at the bits. I don't want any arguing, no beef, not whatsoever. Let's just work together, okay? So I'm going to take us out. Chris, you can go first, followed by Anthony after the 2 minutes on that. So let's get this thing.
All right. Anthony, my friend. All right. So as for the matchup, it's going to be a very, very interesting game. Of course, we know the Jets, unfortunately, they did lose their their star quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, but they still have potential. I think with Breece Hall, and especially with the defensive struggles that the Dolphins exposed for the New England Patriots, I think they have the perfect duo in tandem in Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook. So I think there could be a good bounce back game, especially because he wasn't really utilized last week in their play against Dallas. But I also do believe that Dallas and New England have similar defenses and strengths. So I'm expecting them. Hopefully, we can have our cornerbacks back healthy, and because losing three of these guys is kind of tough. But I think since the Jets don't have that same offensive firepower that Miami has, I think we should be okay. I'm looking at this as being a really good defensive battle, but more upside on New England's case because overall, Mac Jones is a better quarterback. I think they have better weapons. I mean, the Jets have Garrett Wilson for sure, but outside of Garrett Wilson, I don't think Alan Lazard is the guy to beat us. I don't think C.J. Uzomah or I forgot who's the other tight end you guys have. Remind me.
We have Tyler Conklin. We also have Jeremy Ruckert.
Yeah, Tyler and Conklin. I don't think those are the guys who are going to beat us, and McCole Hartman either. So I think it's going to be a great matchup. I feel Christian Gonzalez is he's ready to show improve. He's hungry. He's athletic. He's strong. He's fast. So he has another tough matchup in Garrett Wilson, and I think he's going to go and kind of prove himself again this week. And I think he's going to kind of have a quiet performance. So if it comes down to a battle of defense, I think in the long run, the Patriots are going to win that battle only because Zach Wilson's not the guy to beat us. And if we can take Zach Wilson, and neutralize the offensive air attack, then for sure we can go ahead and put pressure on those running lanes and try and take out Breece Hall. So unless Dalvin Cook has a flash from the pass and beats us on the ground game, I don't really see the Jets winning this game. I see. But it's going to be tough because with our offensive line struggles, Quinnen Williams and the Jets have such an amazing defensive front. It's going to be a really, really hard game to call. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this game. I think it's going to be exciting. And quick question: if the Patriots beat the Jets, and since the Jets beat the Bills, does that make the Patriots the second best team in the AFC East?
I think you would actually have to beat the Dolphins for that.
Yeah. True. All right, but that's all I have to really say against for that matchup. I'm gonna go ahead and let you go, Anthony.
All right. Well, if I'm gonna look at the matchup, I obviously analyze it pretty similar to you. We both see the same game. The big difference that I notice for me immediately is that while I completely agree that Zach Wilson is an inferior quarterback to Mac Jones, which is ironic because they came out in the same class and Zach was picked ahead of him. My divergent point is the fact that last week you were so utterly stifled by a Vic Fangio defense. Now, Robert Saleh used to work for Vic Fangio. You're going to get in this game, and you alluded to it already, a much worse version. Worse is in good. A much stronger, much more potent version of that Fangio defense this week than you did last week. The thing about it was last week, I kind of feel bad for Mac Jones for this, that if the New England Patriots do manage to give up an explosive like you did to Raheem Mostert, Mostert went for 126 yards on like 15 carries or something like that. If you do give up an explosive, Mac Jones then has to hop on his tricycle and march 15 plays down the field on 5-yard completions to Hunter Henry for you guys to maybe have a chance at a touchdown. We both struggle with having offenses that are either, in your case, completely under-talented, or in my case, led by a motor that conks out every so often. The difference in our offenses is the fact that we do have a Breece Hall and we do have a Garrett Wilson who are both capable of explosive plays. I don't know who's going to win, and I know I'm supposed to be making a case for the Jets, but I know for a fact that we have the opportunity to score long touchdowns and you don't. We have the ability to absolutely swarm your quarterback, and you kind of don't. You have a decent pass rush, but it's not at the level of Buffalo, and it's certainly not at the level of the Cowboys. You alluded to Dalvin Cook being washed, and he is. I think by this week, at least I hope, this is a prayer that they realize he's washed and they finally dress Abanikanda and they give Michael Carter a little bit more work. But ultimately, this game is going to come down to, I think, explosive plays. Otherwise, I think you do win.
Good, Anthony. I like the way that both of you are thinking because this is a matchup that, like you said, it's going to come down to what team can move the ball down the field and the offense that can move the ball down the field. And I'm not going to say this being disrespectful to either team, but your offenses need to show up this week. And that's the team that's offense is going to show up this week is going to be the team that's going to win this game. Both of you guys have great defenses. Don't get me wrong. Bill Belichick has a great defense. Really liked what I saw from Christian Gonzalez also. And you know that he's going to take away Garrett Wilson in this game. So it's going to have to come down to what playmakers on the Jets are going to step up. And then it's going to come down to, for the Patriots, how Mac Jones can perform this week and if he can get the ball to his playmakers as well. So I really like this matchup between both sides, and it's going to be a fun one to watch. I'm going to have my popcorn ready on this one, and I want to get into our score predictions real quick. And
is this game in a primetime spot?
It's not in a primetime spot, actually. This game is going to be I believe it's a 1 o'clock game, so I want to double check it. It is a 1 o'clock game in the Meadowlands, so it'll be one of the first games that we watch. But I have the Sunday ticket this year, and I know damn well I'm going to make sure that this game is on my fourplex of games that I'm going to watch. So I'm going to keep an eye on that, and we'll see how this works. But I want to throw it over to Keith because he's been silent quite a bit right now. He looks like he's sleeping already. Hopefully he comes back to life. Okay, there he is. There he is. I thought he was frozen for a second. So
just looking up some stuff.
Let's bring in Keith real quick. I want to hear his score prediction for the Miami Dolphins. He got a little bit ahead of himself on that, but I want to hear his score prediction from the Miami Dolphins. And then I'll go second, and then I'll throw it to the boys up top to talk about their score predictions for their games as well.
Well, as I said, I think it's going to be a bit of a shootout. So I think the Dolphins are going to win this one 35-23.
That sounds good. I like that prediction. For me, I'm going to have the Bills winning, and they're going to have another win by a commanding fashion. And I said that as a joke because obviously the Commanders, they're going to beat them by a commanding fashion. And it's going to come down to a score of 38 again to 17 this time. So a 21-point win for the Buffalo Bills, and they will go into the game against the Miami Dolphins 2-1 and for a shot at hopefully first place in the division if the Jets end up losing. So we'll see how that works out. But let me throw it over to second place team in the division in the Jets. And Anthony, let's give your score prediction for the game against the Patriots. So what's your score prediction?
You're on mute, Anthony.
Sorry about that. I think
that was actually me. I put him on mute. I forgot.
I think it's 17-13 Jets.
Okay. I like that. That's actually a good prediction for the game. I'm going to pull up the spreads after Chris goes real quick, and I'm going to get the spreads for each game. And but I'll let Chris go real quick and talk about his score prediction for the game.
I'm gonna paint the score. I predict it to be 24-10 Patriots.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So let me go over the spreads real quick for the games this week. And I want to start with the Miami Dolphins against the Denver Broncos. The Dolphins are favored in their game to win by more than 6.5 points. So if you're listening to Keith, he said take the Miami Dolphins to win by more than 6.5 points. For the Bills, I said take the Bills to win by more than the 6.5 points for them against the Washington Commanders. So take the Buffalo to win by more than 6.5 points. And then let's go to the Jets and Patriots. And I got to ask you boys, who do you think is favored to win the Jets game?
I think Vegas sees it with the Jets having a slight edge, like 2.5 or 3 points because it's at home.
Probably.
Yeah,
you think
sounds about right.
You think it's the Jets?
Yeah. 2.5.
It's actually the Patriots are favored to win by 2.5 points. So the Patriots are favored to win.
They are the better team.
But, hey,
Yeah, all right.
That's how Vegas thinks. So, Chris, you gave your score prediction. Can you remind me one more time what the score prediction was?
24-10 Patriots.
24-10 Patriots. Okay, that's respectful. I like that. Hey, it's going to be a close game. I believe it's going to be close. I won't say who's going to win, but for that game, because there's two teams involved. But hey, take the team that you think is going to win that game. But for us, we do believe that the Miami Dolphins are going to win by more than 6.5. The Bills will win by more than 6.5, and then you got to decide on the Jets Patriots game on your own. But that's the way things are going to go this week. But guys, I got to say, another excellent show from every single one of you guys. You always bring the heat, which is something that I absolutely love about each and every one of you. Another good show, and let's wrap this thing up. I'll give each of you guys 1 minute to end the show. Just wrap it up real quick and say, something along the lines of talking about your team or anything that you want to get off your chest. I'll start with Chris and then work our way to the first place team in the Dolphins. So let's do a quick wrap up, guys.
I'm looking forward to the game. The Jets are they're nothing to scoff at. They have a wonderful, wonderful defensive line. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Mac Jones. If the Dolphins showed a lot of pressure, I know that the Jets are going to show even more pressure. So I hope New England can figure out the answer for that. At the end of the day, I'm looking forward to see how they correct their issues with their offensive pressures. I'm hoping these guys come back healthy and we could get some more coverage in those in the cornerback department. But at the end of the day, 0-2, whether we were, 0-2 is nothing to be afraid of. So I'm looking forward to see how the Patriots turn this season around. I hope that we get our first win of the season coming out here week 3. But I'm looking forward to just seeing some good football, man. I love that football's back. I'm just happy to be here with you fellas.
That sounds good. I'm going to go second because we're going to go bottom to top this week. Or this segment. So for all of you guys, I want to say, thank you so much for being on the AFC East Summit for another week. Really do appreciate all the hard work that you do behind the scenes. And I want to say, best wishes to each team except for Miami, the Jets, and the Patriots. So, I hope that the Patriots game ends in a tie. I hope that the Jets find a way to make sure that they make a kick at the end of the game so it goes to overtime, and then they tie that game. And then I hope for the Miami to just find a way to give Keith a little bit more pressure on his heart this week and try and find a way to get into his head. So that would be nice going into next week. But all kidding aside, guys, say good luck each and every one of you. The one thing I really do hope for this week is that each player on your team stays healthy. We've seen a lot of injuries that happened with guys like Nick Chubb. A lot of the running backs are getting injured lately, so it's kind of hurting the NFL. And luckily, for our teams, we haven't seen any injuries to the running back rooms, which is good, but we did see a significant injury to the quarterback room of the Jets. Let's try and stay healthy this week. That's one thing I want to focus on for the NFL is staying healthy, and let's get everybody back to another week of playing again, and we'll see how next week goes. So let me throw it over to Anthony, and let's wrap it up with your Jets.
I mean, for me, it's just like this is not the season that I signed up for. I was not at all expecting that we'd lose our quarterback four snaps into the game. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster so far. I'm excited that we are back in MetLife. I am really impressed by what I've seen from Mac Jones. Some of the stats that I've seen from this year that I saw posted not too long ago were right now he's the most pressured quarterback in the NFL and still has the second lowest time to throw of any quarterback and is still tied or top 10 in the league in touchdowns, yards, intended air yards, first downs, top 10 in PFF grade, on target throw percentage, and big time throw percentage. And I say that with all due respect that it's a shame what we're going to do to him this week.
Brett, you're on mute.
Thank you. I had myself on mute. I made sure I did that though, but I'm going to put Keith on the microphone now. I was actually pointing at him, so didn't get the cue, but I'm going to let Keith go, and then I will wrap it up for everybody to do a send-off.
First and foremost, that injury to Nick Chubb last night was horrific, and I'm really hoping he has a speedy recovery, because it looks like it's going to be a long road. And if he so chooses to resume his NFL career, I hope he does so. But injuries like that probably make you question that. So first and foremost,
second too.
What's that?
His second significant knee injury, same knee that he had in 2018, that he has another significant injury to. Yeah. This one looks like it's going to be a little bit worse. Like he might have, to me, I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I follow the football doctor. I don't know if you guys ever do, but the football doctor, it seems like he tore not only his ACL, his MCL, might be the LCL as well. Yeah. Possibly a meniscus tear involved in that as well, which is
possible nerve damage.
Possible nerve damage. There's a lot to it. It seems like it could be something similar, and I pray it's not similar to what we saw with Joe Theismann, which that ended up being a career.
That was a broken leg, though.
That was broken.
Yeah.
But I mean, significant damage to the point where this could keep him out for his career. That's what I'm saying. Is I'm not saying it's the same exact injury, but significant injury that could affect his career. And, that's one thing I don't want to see. I want to see him back out there on the field. But Keith, let you finish though.
Yeah. So just wishing him a speedy recovery. And as far as concerned, we haven't seen the Dolphins' best football just yet. It's important for us to remember that and acknowledge that, because this is a team that, when they hit their stride, should they hit their stride, is as scary as any team there is in the NFL. They're as talented as any team they're as talented as any team in the NFL. Contrary to what you guys might think, it's the truth. They are a super talented team. If they come together, if they hit their stride, they're scary. So I'm looking for them to make strides towards hitting their stride this week.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Keith. And it always comes down to, can they make a difference in the towards the end of the year, which is when it counts the most. So we'll see if they can do that towards the end of the year, but that's going to be the most important thing that you're going to look forward to, is can they make a run at the end of the year. You don't want to catch it too early though. But let me do a quick send off for everybody. I want to say a quick thank you to Keith, Anthony, Chris, and myself. Really do appreciate all the hard work that you do for us, especially on here and then behind the scenes, all the hard work that you do. There's some work that I have to do tonight to catch up on week 2, and I want to get that out to the viewers on Instagram. So I want to get that out. But also don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow the Nickel City Mafia. Drop a nickel on that subscribe button on YouTube, as well as follow them on Instagram and Facebook as well. Also, don't forget to like the Red, White, and Bills as well with Sean Kula. So don't forget to go on over to YouTube, follow him on YouTube, and he'll greatly appreciate it. He's another great correspondent for the Buffalo Bills. And then myself on the Go Bills podcast. You can find us on all 6 of our social media platforms. You know pretty much which ones they are by now, but we have all 6 social media platforms. And then also don't forget to go on over to the GoBillsPodcast.com, where you can find all of the upcoming shows that you will see with guys like Dolphin Keith and Anthony and Chris. You'll see all those shows that we're doing, as well as the collaborations that are going on the Nickel City Mafia, as well as the Red, White, and Bills. Our next show that we will have throughout the week on the Red, White, and Bills will be tomorrow for our weekly picks show. So stay tuned for that. That'll be happening at 8:30 p.m. on YouTube. And then we'll also have another show on the Nickel City Mafia. That'll be on Saturday at 8:30 for our Red, White, and Ruthless show. And you know that myself and Sean are going to come out of the gates roaring, and that's exactly how we're going to do it. So stay tuned for that show, as well as there's some other shows that are going on Nickel City Mafia as well. You're going to have a few other shows with Mike and Jake that are coming up on Wednesday. You'll have another show on Sunday with them as well. And hopefully we can all collaborate.
Brett, if I may, Chris and I are cooking something up right now too. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome, guys. I'm looking forward to that. Is that going to be on YouTube?
It's gonna be on YouTube. It's gonna be on Nickel City Mafia channel.
That is awesome,
we're cooking
guys.
something up. So stay tuned.
Hey, you got to get in the baking room, and you got to get to, starting to carve up a little bit and get everything rolling. But as soon as that comes out, we will put that in the description of the video, and we will get that out to everybody and post it as well. So we greatly appreciate Keith and Chris for letting me know about that as well. So for Brett and the Nickel City Mafia, we will see you next Tuesday for another edition of the AFC East Summit. And as always, go Bills.
Fins up.
Pats Nation.
Jet up.
We'll see you next week.